Lucky Limes with $2 says, Merry Christmas, keep felting Nick Rekieta. I don't see people say that. I don't feel like I'm felting him. I feel like I just kind of live my life. He misses Aaron once in a while, and then he gets a little Aaron obsessed, and then I just respond with one of these. That's it. And then it's over. Everybody lives in this world where they're like, oh, keep felting him. He felts himself. I'm just kind of sitting here doing my thing. I don't really think I'm felting anyone, but thank you. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. And that's like saying I'm not an addict. I saw an interview recently that Will Herron interviewed that chick Kay that goes to all of Nick's court appearances and everything. I don't know if you saw it or not, but so like she's been going to Nick's appearances and she's been talking about how she, as the child of an addict mother, is noticing a lot of unfortunate things in Nick's behavior that she went through as a kid. So she's been going online and saying all this shit and pointing all this shit out. And this was like, so it's again, another one of those moments where like, there's the guy I know. There's the guy I know showing up in public. There he's dropping the facade that he has on Twitter. There he's dropping the facade that he has on stream. That's the guy I know. So apparently this chick was at the courthouse for his settlement conference. And he picked her out and he walked toward her, just made a beeline for her. The minute he saw her, sat down and started like trying to brainwash her. Like he sat down and he's like, I think you and I got off on the wrong foot. Now remember, this is a guy who went on Melton's show and then told Melton that he had just DM'd him a bunch of photos of this woman and called her a hobgoblin. So it's not like, oh, I think we got off on the wrong foot. No, she called you out for what you are and you acted like a petulant, drunk child. That's what happened. You guys didn't get off on the wrong foot. You see, nothing is ever his fault. You know, it's always a mutual thing. Well, we got off on the wrong foot. No, you were a cunt. And he starts talking to this woman and spilling his guts about how he's not an addict. You know, he went through that whole thing. I don't have an addiction. I don't have a problem. He goes, it was all just a fun thing to do. Now, to me, that's worse. Like, I was watching that Will Herron interview and I went, oh my God, that's way fucking worse. I mean, if you could say I'm an addict, then at least if you say you're an addict, you'd be like, oh my God, you couldn't stop yourself. You know, you were doing all these things around your family, around your children. Again, 5 children, you're doing all of these things. He said it was just a fun thing to do. I wasn't an addict. It was just a fun thing to do. So if you're an addict, people will be like, oh my God, you get on the straight and narrow. I'm really sorry. You couldn't stop yourself. That's so terrible. That's a hell to live in. And then when you go, it was just a fun thing to do, that means that you didn't give a fuck about anybody. Like children, forget it. You didn't give a fuck about anybody and you were just doing it. You could have stopped. Like anytime an addict says, oh, I could have stopped at any time. You're like, well, then why didn't you? Like, oh, I could have stopped whenever. Oh, so it's not that you were an addict. It's not that you couldn't help it and you abused all these children. And yes, doing drugs in a house full of children is abusing them. You could have stopped at any time and you chose not to? You chose not to. He sat down at a bench in a courthouse and like didn't spill his guts to this chick. Was like totally manipulating this chick. And then he tells her, and then she goes on Will Herron's show and she goes, oh yeah, he was totally trying to handle me. He was totally trying to manipulate me. She goes, I saw the same behaviors out of my mother when I was growing up with her. And then he said something about how, like, he's been leaning on his oldest and his oldest has, like, helped keep them on the straight and narrow and blah, blah, blah. And then the woman who's being interviewed with Will Herron goes, I don't think he understands how horrifying of a thing that is. She goes, as a child, my mother did that to me because she was a junkie and it has lifelong ramifications on you as a kid. It's called parentalizing a child or something like that. There's a phrase for it. And I was just like, Jesus Christ. But there was that moment where he goes, oh, yeah, where she said, oh, yeah, he said to me, I'm not an addict. I just did it because it was fun. It's like, so you could have stopped at any time, which he couldn't have, by the way. He couldn't have. He didn't stop until the police literally knocked down his door. You could have stopped at any time in your own head, and you chose not to. You realize that makes you a shittier guy. All right. Jonesy the Cat, I'm sorry that you're a Nick person. I'm sorry that you're a sweeper, and I'm sorry that I came out of this looking better. I don't know what to tell you, Jonesy. Sam Show says, the best thing about Nick is he's so lonely. He's just telling random people his deepest inner thoughts. That is weird. Yeah, like the guy who came to me and told me all the stuff that Nick's been telling him. I'm just like, bro, why are you fucking just blabbing this shit to random strangers? What the fuck is that? Like, stop it. And then I saw another thing I saw on the farms. They were like, Aaron now says he's not so sure of his source. I never fucking said that. Kiwi Farms, you guys are starting to lose it because there's a lack of content right now. I get that. You guys are starting to hear shit that I ain't saying. No, my source is 100% accurate. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, people saying brooms out for Nick. Thank you, Snowcat Tish. Parentification of children. Okay, that's the phrase for it. Thank you very much. Chad Zumach went public with something on Twitter that I've experienced myself. He said, and this is like, we've talked about the insecurity of Patrick Melton before. It's no surprise to his audience isn't aware of it, but we are. He gets very jealous when people who watch, he thinks that people who watch him should only watch him. He has a very like abandoned child mentality about like watching stream, like you should only watch him. You know, he kind of runs that cult of 65 IQ, really mongoloid looking inbreds. And when they venture out of his community, they find out that everyone thinks he's either, they call him or a retard, or fat, hunchback, back tits, whatever they call him. There's too many names. We'd be here all day. And they found out that, like, I guess some of them like Chad. And Chad found out from some of his fans that Patrick Melton, when he finds out that they like Chad too, Patrick makes them choose or tries to make them choose. Like he'll message them and tell them, you have to choose between Chad or me. Now, I didn't know that this was a secret. Like a lot of people were sharing this around and going, holy shit, I didn't know this. I've known about this for over a year. I have fans of mine who go, I came over to you from that shitty Onion show. And when he finds out that you watch both shows, unironically, he gets mad. And he tells you, no, you can't enjoy it. No, nothing's good. No, you have to pick this one or that one. It's like, dude, how many times did your parents leave you? Like, how many times did they neglect you? That's some deep-seated childhood shit. When you're on the internet and you can't handle other people on the internet liking other people on the internet, that's mommy and daddy. That reminds me. We should have sent Patrick a gift for Christmas. I know he doesn't have anybody. I think mommy and daddy are dead, and they didn't really love him anyway. And he's really got nobody to Christmas with. And then you're fat. That's no way to go through life. Fat and alone. Ugh. Veldrain says Patrick Melton's biggest problem with his insecurities is he can't eat them to make them go away. He tries. Snowcat Tish says Zumach talks about money more than you. His obsession with SJ is scary. Well, here's my deal with all that. All of these guys talk about money more than I do. That's the ugly secret they don't want to talk about. We have a money goal. We throw it right in your face. We're very honest about it. It's a big blinking neon light, and then we do a show. These guys, everything they do is geared towards a money grab. Every work they set up, they're not being honest with you. These shows are doing gimmicks to try and take money out of your pocket and then act like they're not doing what I do. And they're not doing what I do. They're doing something much more insidious. They're doing something much more dishonest, which is they're pretending that they're not doing what I do while doing worse than what I do. What I do is I go, hey, this is what I do for a living. In order for me to keep doing this for a living, here's the number. And then we move from there. Then the rest is up to you. These other guys, they just bombard you with works and grifts and everything else, and it's so immature. Like, it's so it's middle school. People in high school don't behave that way. So I've always thought that a lot of the steel toe hate around the goal and everything else was wild projection. Wow, McBuster says Moody will not allow criticism of his MAP mentor at all. That Moody, I don't get him. Like, is he he's not an entertainer of any kind. He's not funny. He's never said anything memorable. Is that just like the only guy that will talk to Patrick, so he has him on? That's a weird guy. That's like, Patrick has a phenotype. Moody has a phenotype of a guy. You go into that closet, there's skeletons in it. That's a weird dude. Veldrain says Melton's biggest problem with his insecurity. Okay, that's where we left off. There it is.